Hey guys, Nick here. Welcome to the Omniverse of Nick's next Scream slash Saw slash crossover tale. What if Sidney Prescott was in Saw? Before we get started, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, and check out the About tab and homepage so you don't miss anything that the Omniverse has to offer. With all that said, let's begin. So, Sidney Prescott is the main protagonist of the Scream franchise, and Jigsaw is one of the most infamous horror, iconic franchises in all of horror in its entirety. Now, I've already covered people like Rick and Shane in Saw, so now it's time to touch upon the main protagonist of the Scream franchise and one of the most iconic protagonists in all of horror, Sidney Prescott. So, as always, we do two scenarios. We're going to do what would happen if she was caught in a trap, and if she would join Jigsaw. So, we know Sidney to be ruthless and just very, very cunning in a specific situation. She outsmarted Billy Loomis by being Ghostface and calling over the phone. She dumped a freaking TV onto Stu Macher. She outsmarted Mickey and Mrs. Loomis. She just straight up got bored whenever Scream 5 came around and just knew Ghostface antics by this point and was a freaking absolute mastermind in understanding horror, with Randy and many others being an influence. So Jigsaw would almost have no kind of chance in actually being able to put a trap that Sidney wouldn't be able to get out of. And honestly, I feel that Amanda would lean definitely a lot more into trying to come up with traps because, like Mark Hoffman, she was very much so responsible for putting people in traps that they were never going to get out of in the first place. So, there you could see a problem lying in for Sidney. As for the police and just being on the side of good, I can see Sidney working together with Kelly a lot. And this would actually give Kelly a dynamic that we really should have gotten more of with her. Because we didn't really get any main female leads for the Saw franchise. And honestly, besides Amanda, even though she's a bad guy, this would have given more lead to the side of good in Saw. And with Sidney there, we could see a really awesome Sidney Kelly dynamic that would actually make the Saw franchise a heck of a lot more interesting than it is today. Think about that for a second. And as for joining, it's true, Sidney has put on the Ghostface mask and costume before to outsmart Billy. Yes, there have been talks about her being Ghostface, but Sidney Prescott is one of the few characters that I can surefirely say would never join Jigsaw, especially for what he is, what he's done, and everything like that. And especially because she wouldn't be able to get trapped almost at all or easily at all. It just goes to show no henchman, and not even Jigsaw himself, would be able to stop, control, or even apprenticeship Sidney Prescott or stop her from ultimately bringing Jigsaw down. So, like the Rick Grimes and Shane Walsh Saw ones, this was not going to be a super long video or even a story based on the fact of the Saw franchise, and because there's no need to make it a story. So, the overall goal here, like Shane and Rick, was just to figure in how Sidney would fit into the Saw universe. And she would be very much so equipped. True, the circumstances Ghostface put her in all the movies never put her in a trap, and the same could be said for Rick and Shane, but I've already discussed on why Rick and Shane would freaking be very fit for the Saw universe, and why Sidney, equally, if not so a little bit fits into the Saw universe, and would actually make a pretty freaking compelling story with the likes of Amanda and Kelly, mainly. Because besides Kelly, we never got to see another, like, female detective on the case of Jigsaw. So, having Sidney work with Kelly and possibly get Amanda and Jigsaw and all them caught and figured out sooner would make the story, I feel, way more compelling and interesting. So, in other words, Sidney Prescott in the Saw universe, in at least the female active perspective, would fit in more than Rick and Shane. And yeah, so overall, this was just more or less a analysis video to discuss Sidney Prescott, just like Rick and Shane, how she would fare. I believe I've touched upon a few others that I'm not remembering, but overall, like I said, these videos especially are not meant to be super long ones, and I've yet to tackle one that's actually been a story. But we've got far, far, far more to cover on this channel. And that's all for this video. So I hope you guys liked this analysis of Sidney Prescott in the Saw universe. And I will see you guys in Tailgate Returning Instead of Shockwave. So make sure you watch the Tailgate Survive video before this story airs, because trust me, it's going to be worth it. I'll see you guys then.